If Santa Claus were real, Christmas wouldn't just be a holiday people waited for. It would be a feeling that never really went away. The day the world discovered Santa was real, joy exploded like fireworks across the sky. Every TV channel showed breaking news. Scientists confirmed it with real evidence, and the president made an official announcement that Santa Claus was not a story, not a myth, not something you grow out of believing. He was real. He lived at the North Pole. He had been making toys for children for longer than anyone could remember. The moment people knew for sure, something deep inside the world changed. It was like waking up and realizing that magic had always been real. You had just been too busy to notice. Within weeks, the world made Santa's existence official. And then came the most exciting news of all. Every year, 5 children would be chosen to visit the North Pole. The Polar Express, a real, magical train, would appear on Christmas Eve to carry them there. 5 lucky kids from anywhere in the world. 5 golden tickets that everyone dreamed of holding. Every child entered the lottery. The chances were tiny, but nobody cared. The dream was what mattered. Kids whispered about it at school, wrote essays about what they'd do if they met Santa, and drew pictures of what his workshop might look like. It made Christmas feel alive again. Not just magical, but possible. When the 5 chosen children boarded the Polar Express, the world stopped to watch. The train glowed with silver and gold lights that shimmered across the snow. It didn't run on tracks, it floated, gliding over frozen rivers and through moonlit skies. Inside, the children drank hot chocolate that never cooled down, and watched frost paint snowflakes on the windows. They laughed, sang, and wondered what waited for them at the end of the line. Hours later, the train slowed down. The sky turned soft pink and blue, and when they looked out the windows, they gasped. They had arrived at the North Pole. The North Pole wasn't what anyone expected. It wasn't just snow and ice. It was color, warmth, and light. The air sparkled like glitter. The mountains shimmered in shades of silver and green, and in the distance, glowing brighter than anything else, stood Santa's workshop. It wasn't a cold factory filled with machines. It was alive. Toys appeared on shelves as if the air itself wanted to help. Lights danced along the ceiling like tiny shooting stars. Wooden beams glowed gold and smelled of cinnamon and pine. Music drifted through the halls, sometimes cheerful, sometimes soft, always magical. And at the center of it all stood Santa Claus. Santa was everything anyone imagined, and somehow even more. He had kind eyes that sparkled, as if he was always in on a secret. His laugh rolled through the room like thunder wrapped in warmth. He had energy that never seemed to run out, and when he smiled, you couldn't help but smile back. But the best part was that he wasn't perfect. Santa was clumsy. He tripped over toy boxes, spilled cocoa, and sometimes dropped presents, then caught them at the very last second, acting surprised every time. The elves laughed until they cried, and Santa laughed with them. His clumsiness made him real. Someone you could love, not just admire. The elves weren't tiny people in costumes. They were magical beings, full of creativity and joy. Some could carve wood so beautifully it almost sang. Some made toys that moved before they were even finished. Others were brilliant organizers who somehow knew where every single toy was stored. Each elf had a special bond with Santa. He listened to them, really listened. Even when they teased him about being forgetful or tripping over ribbons, he treated every one of them like family. The workshop wasn't just a place of work. It was a place where joy lived, where laughter mixed with magic, and everything felt possible. Mrs. Claus was the quiet power behind it all. While Santa brought the energy, she brought the calm. She made sure everyone ate, rested, and felt cared for. She had a gentle smile and eyes that saw everything. When things got chaotic, she was the one who brought order back. She and Santa worked together perfectly, 2 halves of the same magic. And every night, when the workshop lights dimmed, they sat together by the window, sharing hot chocolate and stories about the day. By October, the North Pole began to hum with energy. The lights shimmered brighter. The snow sparkled with hints of gold. Letters from children poured in, mountains of them. Santa read every single one. He didn't just skim, he read them carefully, smiling, laughing, sometimes even wiping away a tear. Each letter was a small piece of a child's heart, and Santa treated every one like a treasure. The elves began sketching, building and testing. The workshop filled with the sounds of laughter, hammering, and magic humming in the air. Even the snow outside seemed to dance in rhythm. By November, everything sped up. Toys filled every corner. Lists covered the walls. The air itself buzzed with excitement. Santa moved from table to table, checking each toy, offering advice, cracking jokes. When an elf looked tired, he'd call for a hot chocolate break, and Mrs. Claus would appear with mugs and cookies, as if by magic. Even though everyone was working hard, nobody was stressed. It was busy, but it was happy busy. Every day, new letters arrived, and Santa adjusted plans again and again. If a child had a hard year, he sent them something extra special. If someone wrote a letter full of hope, he tried to match that hope with a gift that mattered. To Santa, every present was a promise, a small piece of joy sent into the world. When December arrived, the workshop came alive like never before. You could feel the countdown in the air. Elves moved faster, laughter grew louder, the scent of peppermint and cookies filled every room. Santa's sleigh gleamed in the corner, freshly polished and ready. The reindeer were training outside, leaping through the snow with bells that jingled in rhythm. Rudolph's red nose glowed like a star, lighting up the path through the icy sky. By December 23rd, every gift was wrapped, labeled, and loaded. The North Pole glowed so brightly it could be seen from space, and then came the night everyone waited for. The workshop grew quiet. The elves gathered outside, their breath puffing white clouds in the cold air. Mrs. Claus handed Santa a steaming mug of cocoa and straightened his coat. Santa smiled at her, then at everyone around him. "This is why we do it," he said softly. He climbed into his sleigh. The reindeer pawed at the snow, their antlers catching the light. With one last wave, Santa called out, "Up, up, and away!" The sleigh lifted, the bells jingled, and in an instant he was gone, streaking across the night sky, leaving trails of silver and gold behind him. All around the world, children slept, dreaming of laughter, warmth, and the sound of reindeer hooves on their rooftops. When the sun rose, magic filled the air. Every child woke up to find presents under their tree. Not random toys, but gifts that felt chosen because they were. Each toy carried a piece of care, of joy, of belief. It wasn't just about getting presents anymore. It was about knowing that someone real, someone kind, had thought about you. That was what made it special. When Santa returned home, the elves cheered and hugged him. Mrs. Claus had a warm blanket waiting by the fire. He sat down, took a deep breath, and smiled. He didn't need thanks. The happiness of the world was thanks enough, but even then his mind was already dreaming about next year, new ideas, new toys, new ways to bring joy. Because to Santa, Christmas was never over. It just rested for a while. From January to September, the North Pole was calm, but still full of life. The reindeer roamed freely across snowy fields. The elves built inventions for fun. Santa went flying sometimes, just because he loved the wind in his beard. Every morning started the same way, with cocoa, cookies, and a smile. He still read letters, even in spring and summer. Some were thank yous, some were questions, some were just kids saying hello. And every letter reminded Santa why he did it, because joy never runs out if you keep sharing it. When October returned, the North Pole began to hum again. Lights flickered on. The air shimmered with excitement. Letters arrived. Laughter returned. The cycle began again. The same, but always new. And every year, on that magical night, Santa flew once more, carrying love across the sky. The magic didn't fade when the world found out he was real. It grew stronger, because now everyone knew that wonder and kindness weren't just stories. They were real. They existed in the world. They lived in Santa, in the elves, and in every child who still believed. And that changed everything. Because Christmas was no longer something you waited for. It was something you carried with you every single day of the year.